When you picture a Roman arena, your mind probably jumps straight to the Colosseum, right?
Yeah.
Huge, iconic.
Almost always, yeah. It's the default image. It's a great starting point, actually.
Right, so let's unpack this. What can a smaller arena like Pompeii's actually tell us about Roman life, about their entertainment, that maybe the Colosseum doesn't?
The first thing that really stands out about Pompeii, it's old. Like really old compared to the Colosseum.
Older. How much older are we talking?
We're talking possibly late Republic era, so well over a century before the Flavian amphitheater, the Colosseum, was even started.
Wow. Okay, so that tells us the Romans' appetite for these big public shows. It was there way earlier than maybe we commonly think.
Precisely. It wasn't just an imperial era invention. These kinds of spectacles were important much earlier, important enough to build dedicated structures.
And the scale is different too, right? Pompeii's amphitheater, while impressive for its time, it's not the Colosseum, it's smaller.
Significantly smaller, yeah. Both in dimensions and capacity.
So could that mean a different kind of vibe,
Yeah.
a different experience for the people watching?
I think it almost certainly did. Maybe more intimate.
Yeah, maybe. Less overwhelming, perhaps? Could you, actually see the details better?
Potentially. And maybe the events themselves were tailored more locally, reflecting Pompeii's specific culture rather than the grand imperial displays in Rome.
Were they still doing the same things? Gladiators, animal hunts? Or did smaller places have different preferences?
Oh, gladiators and hunts were likely staples everywhere, part of the standard Roman entertainment package, you could say.
Right.
But maybe the scale was different. Or perhaps they mixed in other types of local performances or contests more often than in Rome. Hard to say for sure, but the smaller setting allows for that possibility.
And what about how it was built? You mentioned it's older. Does that mean different architecture, different materials?
That's another fascinating angle. Early structures like Pompeii might show, different construction techniques. Maybe less concrete initially, more traditional stonework.
Using local resources, perhaps, before that huge empire-wide style really solidified.
Exactly. You might see more regional variation in these earlier, smaller arenas.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been just cookie-cutter copies of a central design, especially not that early on.
So exploring these lesser-known arenas, it gives us a more nuanced picture, doesn't it? It's not just one monolithic Roman entertainment culture.
Absolutely. It shows diversity across the empire. Different regions might have had slightly different tastes, different resources influencing the buildings, maybe even different types of popular spectacles.
Like maybe a region famous for horses had more chariot-related events, that kind of thing.
It's plausible. The local context likely mattered more than we sometimes assume when just focusing on Rome.
Okay, so the big takeaway here isn't to dismiss the Colosseum, obviously.
Of course not. It's incredible.
But these other arenas, like Pompeii's, they're super important pieces of the puzzle. They show the evolution, the regional flavors of Roman entertainment and building.
They really do. They tell their own stories, separate from, though connected to, the capital.
It adds layers to our understanding.
Definitely. And it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Consider the local places where people gather in your own community today.
Like the local theater or the town square or even a small sports field.
Exactly. How do those spaces, maybe smaller, maybe focused on different things than the huge national venues, how do they reflect what's unique about your area, its values, its interests?
That's a great parallel. Thinking about how local venues reflect local character, just like these Roman arenas might have done. Something to chew on.
Yeah, but very specifically within Verona's Roman arena. So our mission really is to pull out the most interesting bits about these spectacles for you, focusing right there in Verona.
And Verona's a brilliant focus. Everyone thinks Colosseum, but Verona's arena. It's incredibly preserved. It gives you a real, tangible link to these events, maybe in a slightly different way.
That's a great point. And the fact that Verona, which was, a significant Roman city, had this massive arena, it just underlines how central these games were, not just in Rome itself.
Absolutely. Integral to Roman life far beyond the capital.
Okay, so let's think about what actually happened inside those walls. What can we reasonably guess about the kinds of contests they held there?
Well, we could pretty safely assume the standard fare, right?
Yeah.
The kinds of gladiatorial matches you saw across the empire.
Like the classic matchups?
Yeah, exactly. Think the heavy armored Murmillo facing off against, say, the faster Thraex, or the Ricciarius, with a net and trident against the Secutor. Those iconic duels. And almost certainly the Venetians.
The animal hunts.
Right? Trained hunters, or sometimes condemned criminals, facing lions, bears, whatever exotic beasts they could get hold of. That was a huge crowd pleaser. Thrilling, terrifying stuff for the people in Verona.
Wow. Just try and picture that. Thousands packed onto the stone seats. The roar of the crowd, the sounds of the actual combat echoing. It must have been visceral.
Totally immersive. Nothing quite like it today.
So what made Verona a particularly significant spot for these kinds of events? Why there?
I think Verona's position is key. It's a major Roman crossroads, strategically vital in northern Italy.
Right, controlling trade routes and such.
Exactly. So you had a large population, lots of travelers, a big military presence nearby. That creates a sort of natural demand for major public entertainment.
The ready-made audience.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the arena itself. It's also a massive statement, isn't it? A symbol of Roman power, Roman culture, right there in this important northern city.
So it's entertainment, yes, but also projecting Roman dominance. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly to the gladiators, the actual people who fought in Verona's arena.
Yeah, that's crucial. Well, these weren't just one type of person.
Right, a mixed bag.
Definitely. Prisoners of war, slaves bought for the purpose, condemned criminals.
Mm-hmm.
But also, sometimes, free men seeking fame or fortune, believe it or not. They all went through incredibly harsh, specialized training.
And specific schools, maybe?
Probably. Maybe local schools in or near Verona, or perhaps they were part of troops that traveled around. But wherever they came from, their fate, their performance happened right on that sand.
And considering Verona's arena specifically, it's so old, so well preserved, does that give the events there a unique flavor?
I think it must have. Its sheer age, for one. Parts of it might even predate the Colosseum's final form.
Really? Older than the Colosseum?
Some elements, potentially, yes, in its original construction phases. So imagine watching a fight there. You're not just watching the violence. You're sitting in a place with deep, deep history. It connects you directly to generations of Roman spectacle and power. Those stones have seen a lot.
That adds another layer entirely. Okay, let's try and pull this together then. We started with just a phrase about Verona's arena.
Yeah.
And we've touched on the likely contests, the incredible atmosphere, why Verona was important, the gladiators' lives.
The main point, I think, is that these gladiator events weren't just a single uniform thing across the empire. They were shaped by the local context, the city, its politics, its geography.
Right.
And Verona's arena is just such a powerful example of that, a unique, localized expression of this wider Roman phenomenon.